welcome to this Highland dance workshop with me, Georgina Key McCarter. Today we're going to have a look at some of the history of Highland dance, some of the costumes used in Highland dance, and we're going to talk a little bit about Highland dance all around the world. So, first up, let's think a little bit about the history of Highland dance and where it came from. So what did you think about Highland dance and where it originated? Most people I speak to don't realise that it was an all-male and all-military art form. It began in the armies in the Highlands of Scotland, and to this day, the army in Scotland still use Highland dancing as their fitness training. Women were banned from dancing. It wasn't until the late 19th century that one lady dared to dance against the men. She was Jenny Douglas. She had to wear a male traditional costume and just turned up and competed against the men. It was really frowned upon, and even after that, ladies were then allowed to dance, but they were given separate steps and separate competitions. It wasn't until the mid-60s that Highland dance competitions became combined between men and women. Nowadays, all our competitions are integrated. Men compete against the women, and now women largely outnumber the men who dance. All of our dances come from military backgrounds. We have 4 traditional Highland dances, the most famous being the Highland Fling. That's a celebration dance. It's always performed after a successful battle or a military victory. Then we've got the sword dance. It tells the story of a soldier called Gilly Callum. It's said to be a dance surrounded by superstition. If you hit those swords before you go into battle, it's not going to be a good day. Dancers to this day have a lot of superstitious thoughts around their sword dance. And then there's the Chartreuse. It was created after the Battle of Culloden. After that British Disarmament Act was brought in and the Scots weren't allowed to play their bagpipes or wear their kilt or dance any traditional Highland dances, they fought back to remove this British Disarmament Act. And then they created the Chartreuse, a dance that tells the story of kicking off the trousers and getting rid of those trousers, and then the dancer claps their hands and they're back into that traditional costume again, and they perform a Highland Fling step as a celebration of getting rid of that British Disarmament Act. The Scots were back to their tradition again. Highland dance is prominently practiced throughout the world, particularly within the Commonwealth. 2 of my dancing idols, both of which that I've had the privilege of meeting, are multiple world champions, Colleen Riddle-Mackey from Canada and Morgan Bamford from New Zealand. Some of the biggest championships in the world are actually in Canada and Australia. Although, the hot favourite is always the Cowal Gathering, where the World Highland Dance Championships take place each year in August in Dunoon in Scotland. Highland dancers throughout the world prepare for many different types of events. Firstly, there's competitions and championships like I've already mentioned. Locally, our dancers here prepare for the Ulster Championships and the Northern Ireland Championships every year. We've also hosted the European Championships a few times as well. Then there's exams. There's 3 different exam boards within Highland dancing, and many dancers work really hard to gain qualifications and perhaps become teachers and examiners through their exams. Then there's tattoos and showcases. It's a real highlight of any Highland dancer's career to get to perform at a tattoo. I've had the honour to perform at the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo and also at a circuit of tattoos across Europe. It's such a highlight in any Highland dancer's career. And then there's the most highly renowned dance competition. It's called the Braemar Gathering, and at that event, Highland dancers from across the world are invited to perform and compete, and it is attended by the Queen, another wonderful honour for any Highland dancer. So there's 4 main costumes that we use at Highland dance competitions, not including choreography, just their competitions. So let's show you some of those now. So this is it. This is the traditional Highland costume that any Highland dancer would wear to compete. Our costume and rules are very strict and they're based on tradition. So all Highland dance costumes will look very much like this. You've only got a few choices. So you can wear long sleeves or short sleeves, but otherwise pretty strict. Every costume will have 5 buttons down each side and 5 points on the jacket. The kilt is always worn to knee length, and then the hand-knitted socks to match. This is the costume that Highland dancers would wear for their 4 traditional Highland dances. But then there's a few other costumes that we have. On any one given competition day, a dancer is allowed to compete in 8 dances. So 4 traditional Highland, and then a selection of Scottish national dances. The first costume I have here is in a boyne or a flora outfit. This is the female version. The male would wear tartan trews. This costume is worn for various dances. The Flora MacDonald, Scottish lilt, the blue bonnet, so the Scotch measure. There's many traditional Scottish national dances that are done in this costume. Then we've got something a bit different. This is a sailor's hornpipe costume, and I'm sure you'll agree it doesn't look very Scottish or traditional, and it has no tartan. It's worn for a sailor's hornpipe dance. It's based on the actions that the sailors would have carried out on the ship. It doesn't have traditional arm positions like the Highland dances. It's based on all those things that the sailors would do on the ship. And then there's the Irish jig. And yes, it is called the Irish jig, but it is a Scottish national dance performed by Highland dancers. It's based on a story, and there's many versions, but let's just say it's a very crabbit Irish woman, whatever happened to her. And once again, not traditional arm actions or feet positions. This one's got a lot of shaking of the fists. And we don't have heavy shoes like they do in Irish dancing, but this is our closest equivalent. These are jig shoes, and they just come with a little clicker on the heel, a little jingle. So no hard shoes, but enough for the Highland dancers to get stamping their feet. As I said, it's telling the story of a very crabbit Irish woman, so stamping the feet and shaking the fists is a big feature of any Irish jig. Thanks for joining me today for this online workshop. If you'd like to learn a few dance steps, check out our YouTube channel, Solid Highland Dancers.